get into the setups now. So let me go over here and we'll click onto the setups. Notice that we've got all the various headings broken into their groups. Start, finish, hardware, timing, pool, scoreboard, printer, event sequence, set date and time, and the wireless setup. So in start and finish, we have all these menu options, 8 menu options over here. And it basically is going to tell us how we're going to start and finish the races with the timer. We need to input where the start for even length races are. So if this is a 25-meter pool, let's say, if we're going to run a 50, where we're going to start at. If we're going to run basically on a 25, anything, we're going to run an even number of lengths or laps. So a 50, there's 2 lengths in that on a 25-meter pool. So we're going to start that at the near end. If we were running 25s, where would we start those? So you need to be aware of physically how your pool is laid out and how you want to get that, how you want to accomplish that. So for instance, let's say on a 50-meter pool, we wanted to start the 50s down at the far end. We need to denote that in the timer. So for those of you that have a 50-meter pool that you often swap back between short course and long course, you'll need to make sure that there are some settings that are going to change when you go from a long course event to a short course event. Number 3 is do not clear lanes automatically. What this means is that it will hold the times up on the board until the next start signal comes into the timer. So if I change that, as soon as the reset is hit, the times go off the board and all you see is lane numbers. Now the number 4 is to show, and to change these, I'm going to step back here. To change these, all I'm literally doing is clicking on the number 3 on the 10 key, and it will just toggle between those. Some of these will have menu choices, and you'll see as we go through this, those that do. Number 4, do not show start reaction times on the scoreboard. So if you have relay judging platforms, and this only pertains if you have relay judging platforms, if I turn this off, or turn it on to show the start reaction times, whatever your pad delay at start, and we'll get into that setting here in a minute, is set for, it will show the start reaction time on the scoreboard for that many seconds. Anytime at all, if I want to make it save the changes that I've made, I need to come over here and click on the Save Setups button. We need to tell it in number 5 and number 6 for the near end what our primary finish is, whether it be pad, buttons. Those are your 2 choices. Same thing for the far end, whether it's pads or buttons. And then you also need to double check, go through the manual. The printed manual is actually really good at showing you the configurations that you'll need. We've got a couple in the introductory video of this that showed how to hook all this stuff together. But the manual actually for the swimming manual is really good at showing how these connections actually have to be made. And it will show you if you're using buttons as your finish, where you need to connect those buttons. Number 7 is the do not blink time for record breaker. If you change this to blink time for record breaker, the only caveat is you have to have a record time entered into, if you remember on the right hand side of the screen, the soft keys from the introductory video of swimming shows you where to enter the record for each of those. And then number 8 is do not post intermediate places on scoreboard. Most times with numeric scoreboards, with any of the scoreboards really, most of the time it's confusing to the spectators to have a place show up there suddenly, but you can certainly do it, and that's your prerogative. On to hardware here. Going to take a step back here real quick. If someone's been in playing with the timer and everything just seems to be chaos, you may want to step back to restore to defaults. Just remember that by default it'll come up with there's a set number of lanes in the pool. It's set to a short course, I believe, so there's some things that you may have to change immediately. But if someone's really been in here playing around with the setups, it might be a wise idea to go ahead and do the restore defaults. So in the hardware, speaker volume. Those of you with very old System 6 timers, this is applicable. You can actually change the volume of the beep. Newer System 6, basically, I believe anything that's been has USB capability, the speaker volume setting actually does nothing. You can change it to your heart's content. It's going to be as loud as it always is. Backlight intensity is the same thing. That harkens back to some old hardware that we had early on, allowed us to change the intensity of the backlight. That is no longer true. It is set at the factory and it stays that way. You can change it, but it just doesn't do anything. Number 3, remote setup allowed. This is a big one. We want to make sure that that always says that if we're interfacing to meet management, be it high tech or whoever, we need to make sure that this says remote setup is allowed. That allows the meet manager to talk to the System 6, download event sequences into it, and also pull the race times off at the end of each race. Relay judging platforms, whether you have them or not, usually just leave it set here. Set just the default settings. Relay judging interval, even if you have RJPs, you leave it at 0.75 seconds is usually good, unless you've got some age group swimmers that are very slow off the block. If their start reaction falls or their exchange falls outside of that 0.75 seconds, it will not show a start reaction time or a exchange time on the scoreboard. Number 7 is whether or not far end splits are used. You can also change this from within the quick menu on the right hand side of the screen from the main screen within swimming. Number 8 is whether or not you use the start reaction times. And number 9 is whether or not you use the backstroke start reaction times. Choice 0 is for the scoreboard intensity for our numeric scoreboards, numeric only, not alphanumeric, not the matrix boards. So you can change the intensity from 1 to 8. On to timing here, the timing precision. So in our choices here, we literally, if we click through it, we have 1 second, 1/10 of a second, 100th of a second, 1,000th of a second. The default is the 100th of a second. Whether or not we use backup time adjustment, then this is the USA Swimming backup time adjustment rule. If you turn it on, it adjusts the backup time buttons according to their formula. If you turn it off, it's just the raw data that comes through. Near end split delay, as we move on to 3 and 4, both the near and far end pad split delay. Basically what this is that when a split comes in, after the split has been registered, we ignore any activity on that pad for however many seconds this is set for. In this case, 15 seconds. So this allows things like for relays, gives the swimmer 15 seconds to get out of the water without inadvertently triggering another split and or finish. Bump this up usually is pretty close to say 5 to 10 seconds faster than the fastest swimmer in the pool. This just keeps you from having issues of inadvertent touchpad hits during the race. Display time warning messages down in the bottom box, and when we actually go through and run a mock meet, we'll actually see some of these messages show up. Basically, what this is it'll show warnings, change the color of the lanes status down here to an orangish color if the splits are behind. If I've had 2 splits come in lane 1 at 30 seconds each time, and then suddenly it's 45 seconds down the road, the next 45 seconds down the road, this lane 1 is going to turn to orange, basically telling me, hey, take a look, you may have missed a split on that lane. Similar to the split delay for the split delay, you've got a pad delay at start. So after the start signal, by default, we're waiting 3 seconds before we look at that pad at the startup. Now, you're doing flyovers, you're going to want to bump that up, probably in the 15, 18 second range, something like that. So that gives time for the swimmer to get out of the water without inadvertently triggering a hit. Number 7 is whether or not the scoreboard lanes, whether they count up or count down. In this case, we're count up or count down. I can change it. All I do is just toggle it with the number 7 key on the 10 key. What that does is tells us, we start out with a fixed number of lengths and count down, or we start with 0 and we count up to the total number of lengths in that race. Number 8's exact same thing, except for it pertains to the display down here under the lengths, whether it counts up or down. Not down here, but actually in the column here, just to the left of the lane numbers. I apologize. Number 9 is whether or not what we do for dashes or for DQs. If we show the time on a DQ, or whether we show dashes on the line of scoreboard. That is totally up to everybody. Usually, what ends up happening, from my experience, is that any of the DQs are actually done on the meat management side and not on the timer. It makes the timer operator just focus on grabbing data, as opposed to worrying about who's DQ'd and who's not. And then finally, number 0 is the pad to backup comparison interval of 0.31 seconds. What this does is that it will give us kind of an alert and basically make the operator look at the lane data or the finish times for a particular lane if the backup button comes in more than 0.3 of a second ahead or behind what the finish time on the pad actually is. And it's just kind of a heads up to say, hey, if we've got a finish time of 25 even on the touchpad, but the backup button came in at 23 seconds, just kind of a heads up to say, hey, look at that lane and see if everything is in good shape. At this point, we'll take a short break, and when we continue, we'll go over the pool as scoreboard and printer setups, and then follow that up with the remaining 3, the event sequence, the date and time, and the wireless.